Excellent. I will. I'll keep it really simple. But let's get this recording on the roll here, and we'll get started with that. Hi, I'm Shane Snipes, and you're watching Sustainable 1000 TV and radio. Traveling around the country, I'm doing 1,000 interviews across 48 states in 222 days. Rock on! This is good stuff. Indeed, I'm traveling here in Canada, and it's been so nice to be in the 51st state. So.
Nice. A little bit of delusion going on here, but no worries.
Yes, I don't know which side the delusion's on, actually.
Yeah. Okay, that'll be another webcast.
It sure will. So we're going to chat about energy and how energy is growing and expanding for community members here in Toronto, as well as in other parts of Canada. Mm-hmm. We'll explore some general ways that energy is changing for community members and what it looks like across some different ways. But we'll keep it kind of general in the beginning, and then, of course, we'll take your tweets and your Facebook comments. And so ask some really tough questions. I've already got about 25 really good questions. Thanks for my expert panel who has already sent things to me. Yes, I actually do come prepared.
Yeah, wicked.
Believe it or not. So, Rebecca, thanks so much for being with me today.
It's my pleasure. I'm excited to talk about what's going on here in Ontario as far as energy is concerned, and just generally chat about marketing and its role in communicating with people about sustainability and the different opportunities to get involved.
Sure. Let's start there, actually. Let's start with the sort of communication ideas. What are the successful strategies to kind of transition from a general communication strategy, or shall we say a boring communication strategy, to a sustainable communication strategy?
Yeah, we try and avoid boring communications at any time. Do you want me to talk to you or the camera?
Talk to me.
Okay. So I really think that marketing within the sort of sustainability sector really isn't about your traditional marketing, where it's price and positioning and hits and reach and things like that. We're talking about changing people's behavior. I think a lot of people already believe that doing things that are good for the environment are something to do, but how do you change those day-to-day things that you do, and how do you feel that you're making a difference? So the marketing is not so much the traditional commercial marketing as it is social marketing, and I personally am very interested in a community-based social marketing approach. Mm-hmm. So it's creating norms, creating tools, and really being very authentic and values-driven in your communication to people.
Sure. That authenticity, oftentimes I've seen when I've seen commercials that focus on green messaging, sometimes come across in my seeing it as covering things up with beautiful green ideas.
Well, there's nothing wrong with making things pretty.
No, I get it. I totally get it. I think being pretty is good.
Yeah.
But from your perspective, what's this thing about greenwashing, and what does that do? How does that show up?
Well, in the last 5 years since I've been in this sector, 5 years ago when you thought about a green product, it was very much away from the mainstream. It was being made by hippies. It was very, organic food was just an idea, and that very few people could afford. And so, but once these sort of ideas started catching on, especially before the economy went all wonky a couple of years ago, where people were actually willing to put a bit more money into it, the bigger corporations were all getting on board this corporate social responsibility idea, and they're like, we need green products. And so they would adjust one of their existing products, and they would brand it as green, and they would go out there and say it's green, because it was greener than what they were offering before. So, if Clorox is making a new GreenWorks dishwashing detergent, which is one of my personal pet peeves, because it's not green, but it's greener than their original Sunlight or whatever the hell the other product was. So what's that about? That's about really making minute shifts by big corporations that control most of the shelf space and most of the retailers around, North America, and making sure that they are keeping up with the flavor of the month. So if the next flavor was lavender and purple and everything was purple, then there would be purple wash, So I think that that's really just inevitable of the marketplace, that people are going to try and take their piece of the marketplace, which is why, to me, it's going back to the idea of authenticity. It's very important to understand what sustainability means and to really sincerely go for that sustainable aspect. And to give the large corporations credit, a lot of them are working through this right now, and working through institutional sustainability. How do you reach your employees? How do you make measurable shifts, but honestly authentic shifts as well? So I'm not saying that there's bad guys and good guys, but I think that's what greenwashing is about. It's about an inevitable reach for market share and branding.
Yeah, and so you think the answer is just to hold them accountable, or to constantly kind of have your eyes and ears up? I mean, what do you do to fix that strategy, which of course a corporation, if they find that it's going to leverage a certain market, that they'll continue to do that thing?
The nice flip side to this situation is that because of the transparency that exists now on, in social media and in networks and in efforts of what you're doing, people are talking about it, and and that authenticity, that values-driven message, people share it. The people that are actually moving forward, and it's an older term, cultural creatives, but it's I still sort of believe this. These are people that they're not traditionalists, they're not modernists, they're making their way forward in a more sustainable fashion. They see the options and opportunities available to them. They authentically want to move towards them, but they do their research and they talk amongst themselves. And so I think that any product that you're putting out there or service now is open to negotiation and open to feedback, right? Whether it's a new restaurant or a new product or an event or anything. And so that flip side, I think, lends a bit more credibility and can mitigate some of the greenwashing. When people smell a rat, they'll talk about it.
Sure, especially online, because nothing is cooler than talking about rats on the internet. So Sherry has a question. Sherry Ken has a question. She basically says, corporations tend to go around and around and create an image for what they would like to be, and not necessarily what they are in terms of their sustainability. Is there a way for us to keep track of that?
It's a good question, and that immediately brings to mind BP and the whole Gulf of Mexico thing, where they're spending a cajillion dollars advertising their sustainability initiatives, but at the end of the day, it's like this much of their income for a world's worth of oil. Mm-hmm. And is there a way of keeping track? I can't say that I'm like an expert on that. I definitely keep my ear to the ground. I subscribe to newsletters like Tree Hugger that talks about this stuff and really interconnects and links. And my major focus is energy, so I do pay a lot of attention to what's going on within that sector. But I think just the intent to be involved and looking online and seeing what kind of conversations are going on around there and just keying into them. Mm-hmm. I mean, you don't even have to look for them on a regular basis. You sign up for newsletters, and next thing you know, things are just landing in your inbox. And when you have a chance, you can look through, and things that are of particular interest to you in your lifestyle you can follow up on would be my suggestion.
Sure. And from the energy perspective, what are the major trends happening in Ontario, perhaps compared to other parts of Canada?
Ontario in particular has a really aggressive green energy platform. It's called the Green Energy Act, and it revolves around one key thing, which is called a feed-in contract. Feed-in tariff, and without getting too technical, basically if you put renewable energy on the grid, the government will pay you for 20 years a fixed amount, and it's quite a generous amount. And the reason they're doing that is because they're using it to stimulate a new manufacturing hub in Ontario, because we've lost a lot of manufacturing, as have a lot of jurisdictions in North America. Right. So it actually fulfills a lot of mandates. It gets coal offline, because we don't have a lot of coal in Ontario, but we had some coal generation, so it's replacing it with renewables. So we've got cleaner air, cleaner water, healthier communities, and it's creating a new manufacturing hub, and it's also positioning us for the future, because Canada actually just today got like a D- or something in innovation from some international poll. I mean, we have so much natural resource here that we just sit on it and we sell it and we buy it back. Other people go and do interesting ththings with it and we buy it back. And we've got this great standard of living, so we sort of don't get very innovative. Right. At least to me, the renewable energy sector in Ontario and the policy that supports it, the Green Energy Act, it's really easy to Google and find out more about it. And it really is. It's based on the German model, and it's a fantastic act. Sure. Not perfect, but really, really good and really leading in North American jurisdictions, not just in Canada, but in the U.S. as well. Right,
and Germany and Europe have some really great initiatives going on in relationship to energy.
Yeah.
I'm kind of interested to know, in terms of energy and specific projects in Ontario, what's sort of leading edge?
Well, what I'm personally working on, so I'm going to pitch it now, is the idea of community-based renewable energy generation. And what that means is landowners, farmers, individuals or groups of individuals like renewable energy co-ops or any sort of pre-existing organization that's not a renewable developer can build, if they can get financing, which is the big hurdle, can build renewable energy projects of any different technology and put them on the grid. And not only do they get paid the feed-in tariff rate that I mentioned, they actually get paid a premium. because the money, again, is and the return on investment, which is a healthy return on investment, like generally between 8 and 12% IRR, which is great for 20 years.
Sure.
Better than what most financial products and services are paying right now.
Right.
That is being rewarded in Ontario by the Green Energy Act as well. So community-owned power. The problem is accessing money to actually get these projects forward, and so that's where the Community Energy Partnerships Program that we have right here,
Sure.
And it's www.communityenergyprogram.ca. That's where we come in, and we actually provide grants to individuals, groups of individuals, co-ops, not-for-profits, and charities that are putting together projects and are looking for money at early stage financing. So we're able to help them do the engineering studies and do the site assessments and, you know, hire a project manager or start an environmental assessment process. So this is one tool for moving that forward. And the reason why I like it and why it is very well, it's being very well received is because it actually democratizes the idea of power generation, that it's not shareholders over here, it's actually people in your community making energy for your community, and so it mitigates a lot of people's concerns about, I don't want a bunch of turbines stuck up beside my house, but if I can actually own those turbines and make a return on them, then I'm much more likely to believe the studies that say that they're benign as opposed to worry about the hype that says that they're actually bad for you when there's no proof that there is.
Right.
So it's a way of mitigating local concern, democratizing power, and keeping money in the community, which I think is, again, in the globalized age, money has really spread out, and this is relocalizing economies.
Well, I know you just mentioned something, and I knew I was going to get a bunch of tweets on it, because anytime you mention something like that, people really pinpoint it. And what you said,
like that is the wind turbines?
No, that it might be harmful in some way. Alfredo was like, what studies say that these types of technologies are harmful?
If you go on, there are anti-wind sites that list studies from individuals, often
things like that?
Birds, health impacts. They aren't peer-reviewed articles, but they create bulk, and bulk creates profile. And these anti-wind organizations are very well funded. They've got great sites. You know, they can afford to send people around to local communities and stir up the local community and stuff.
How are they funded?
Well, I don't know how they're funded. I could hypothesize about how they're funded, and I would say it's by not wind-generating energy.
Sure.
But,
maybe not.
Maybe not.
Yeah,
I have no proof.
I have no. Rebecca Black is here with me.
Gun.
And she and I are talking about energy in Canada and why Canada is so much cooler than the United States. We're going to continue that conversation after this break.
I love the States too.
So stay tuned and keep your Facebook questions coming and all the other things. And be sure you check out their website, which is
communityenergyprogram.ca.
There you go. And we are going to be right back after this really quick break. So stay tuned. And we'll still be broadcasting. We just won't be recording. All right, ciao.